Hey there, global citizen. Let's talk about one of the most significant geopolitical events of our time, the Russia-Ukraine war that erupted in February 2022. Whether you're following the news closely or just trying to make sense of what's happening, this conflict has had far-reaching consequences that affect everything from global politics to the price of bread at your local grocery store. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's break it down together. What led to this war, why it matters, and how it's reshaping the world as we know it. On February 24, 2022, the world woke up to shocking headlines. Russian President Vladimir Putin had ordered a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Tanks rolled across borders, missiles struck cities, and millions of lives were upended overnight. This wasn't just another regional skirmish, it was the largest military offensive in Europe since World War II. But here's the thing. While the invasion seemed sudden to many, it didn't come out of nowhere. The roots of this conflict stretch back years, decades even. To understand why Russia invaded Ukraine, we need to rewind and look at the bigger picture. At first glance, the war might seem like a straightforward case of territorial expansion, but trust me, it's much more complicated than that. Here are some key factors that explain why tensions boiled over. Russia and Ukraine share centuries of intertwined history. For much of that time, Ukraine was part of various empires, including the Russian Empire and later the Soviet Union. When the USSR collapsed in 1991, Ukraine declared independence, a move celebrated by Ukrainians but viewed by some in Moscow as a loss of a vital buffer zone. Since then, Ukraine has increasingly leaned toward the West, seeking closer ties with NATO and the European Union. For Russia, this shift felt like an existential threat to its sphere of influence. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea, a region of Ukraine with strategic importance due to its Black Sea ports. Around the same time, pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine's Donbas region declared independence, sparking an 8-year-long conflict that claimed over 14,000 lives. These unresolved tensions set the stage for the 2022 invasion. Vladimir Putin has long argued that Ukrainians and Russians are one people, and that Ukraine is not a legitimate nation-state. In the months leading up to the invasion, he repeatedly denied Ukraine's right to sovereignty, framing the attack as a mission to denazify and demilitarize the country, a claim widely dismissed as propaganda. For Putin, this war appears to be about restoring Russia's dominance on the global stage and reversing what he sees as the humiliation of the post-Soviet era. Now let's fast forward to the present day. Since February 2022, the war has been brutal, grinding, and devastating for both sides. Here's a snapshot of what's happened so far. In the early days of the invasion, many expected a quick Russian victory. After all, they had superior numbers and firepower, right? Wrong. Ukraine mounted fierce resistance, bolstered by Western military aid and unprecedented unity among its people. Cities like Kyiv and Kharkiv became symbols of defiance, holding off Russian advances despite overwhelming odds. The human cost of the war has been staggering. Millions of Ukrainians have fled their homes, creating Europe's largest refugee crisis since World War II. Civilians have borne the brunt of the violence, with reports of atrocities, including mass graves and targeted attacks on schools and hospitals. This isn't just a regional conflict, it's a global shockwave. Sanctions imposed on Russia have disrupted energy markets, sending gas prices soaring. Grain exports from Ukraine, once dubbed the breadbasket of Europe, have been severely impacted, contributing to food shortages in countries already struggling with poverty and hunger. One of the most striking aspects of this war has been its modernity. Drones, cyber attacks, and satellite imagery have played crucial roles, turning battlefields into high-tech arenas. Social media has also transformed how wars are covered, with real-time updates and viral videos shaping public opinion worldwide. You might be wondering, sure, this is tragic, but how does it affect me personally? The truth is, this war touches nearly every corner of the globe. Here's how. If you've noticed higher costs at the pump or skyrocketing utility bills, you can partly blame the war. Europe's reliance on Russian natural gas has made the continent vulnerable, forcing leaders to rethink their energy policies and consumers to foot the bill. Ukraine is a major exporter of wheat, corn, and sunflower oil. With fields turned into battlefields, global food supplies have tightened, driving up prices and worsening hunger crises in Africa, the Middle East, and beyond. The war has redrawn alliances and intensified rivalries. NATO, once seen as a relic of the Cold War, has experienced a resurgence, with Finland and Sweden applying for membership. Meanwhile, China and other nations are watching closely, weighing whether to support Russia or distance themselves. Beyond economics and geopolitics, this war raises profound ethical questions. How do we respond to aggression? What responsibilities do wealthy nations have to protect smaller ones? And what does it mean to stand up for democracy in an increasingly polarized world? As of now, the war shows no signs of ending anytime soon. Both sides remain locked in a deadly stalemate, with neither willing to back down. Ukraine continues to fight fiercely, armed with advanced weapon systems provided by Western allies. Meanwhile, Russia has doubled down, mobilizing troops and escalating rhetoric. The outcome will depend on countless variables: diplomacy, economic pressure, battlefield dynamics, and sheer willpower. One thing is certain, though: the scars of this war will linger for generations. The Russia-Ukraine war is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the resilience of humanity. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the tragedy, but it's also important to remember that individual actions matter. Supporting humanitarian organizations, staying informed, and advocating for peaceful solutions are small steps we can all take to make a difference. So next time you hear about the war, don't tune out. Engage with it. Ask questions. Talk to others. Because understanding this conflict isn't just about grasping history, it's about shaping the future. Until next time, stay curious and keep believing in the power of hope, even in dark times. Do you think sanctions against Russia are effective, or do they harm ordinary citizens more than leaders? How should the international community balance supporting Ukraine with avoiding escalation into a broader war? What lessons can we learn from this conflict about preventing future wars? Let's keep the conversation going, because understanding today's challenges helps us build a better tomorrow.